Fallout 3. It is the first game that marks a major shift in the series by using 3D graphics and real-time combat, replacing the 2D isometric graphics and turn-based combat of the previous installments. The game is set within a post-apocalyptic open-world environment that encompasses a scaled region consisting of the ruins of Washington, D.C., and much of the countryside to the north and west of it in Maryland and Virginia, collectively referred to as the Capital Wasteland. Downloadable content is set in Pennsylvania, southern Maryland, pre war Alaska, and outer space. It takes place within Fallout's usual setting of a world that deviated into an alternate timeline thanks to atomic age technology, which eventually led to its devastation by a nuclear apocalypse in the year 2077, referred to as the Great War, caused by a major international conflict between the United States and China over natural resources. The main story takes place in the year 2277. Players take control of an inhabitant of Vault 101, one of several underground shelters created before the Great War to protect around 1,000 humans from the nuclear fallout, who is forced to venture out into the capital wasteland to find their father after he disappears from the vault under mysterious circumstances. They find themselves seeking to complete their father's work while fighting against the Enclave, the corrupt remnants of the former U.S. government that seeks to use it for their own purposes. Alrighty. So diving into the gameplay, so Fallout 3 is an action role-playing game that can be played from either a first person or person perspective. It is set in the Washington metropolitan area years after nuclear war left much of the United States decimated. The player controls a 19-year-old character who grew up in a fallout shelter called Vault 101. The goal of the game is to complete a series of quests to find the character's father, who unexpectedly left Vault 101. In addition to the main quest, the player can participate in optional unrelated quests known as side quests. At the beginning of the game, the player can customize their character's physical appearance by choosing their gender and race. They can also allocate points into seven primary attributes: strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck, which you guys know from the first two games. These attributes are known as special stats and range from 1 to 10. Additionally, there are 13 secondary attributes whose points total are affected by special stats: barter, big guns, energy weapons, explosives, lockpick, medicine, melee weapons, repair, science, small guns, sneak, speech, and unarmed. If the player has a high charisma stat, for example, then they will be more proficient with the barter and speech skills at the beginning of the game. The player can add more skills into skill sets whenever they earn enough experience points to level up. Experience points can be earned through several methods such as killing an enemy or completing a quest, which is just it's not just Fallout general, which is it's not just Fallout general, but that's just general game knowledge. That's just general game knowledge of how to level up. But yeah, when the player reaches a new level, they can select a perk, which is a permanent beneficial upgrade. For example, the perk Master Trader reduces the price of items sold by vendors by 25%, which with that perk you get a very good discount, I guess, in a way, if you look at it like that. Fallout 3 features an open world map that the player can freely explore. Locations the player can discover range from small settlements and abandoned buildings to larger locations like the Jefferson Memorial and the Washington Monument. The player is equipped with a wearable computer known as the Pip-Boy 3000 this time. The device serves as a menu and allows the player to access items that they have acquired, view detailed character statistics and active quests, and look at the map, which can be used to fast travel to previously discovered locations. The player can also utilize the Pip-Boy as a radio, letting them to listen to songs from the 1940s and 50s or makeshift radio broadcasts. While exploring, the player can recruit certain non-playable characters as companions who will accompany the player and assist them in combat. There are a variety of weapons in the game, including standard guns, energy-based guns, melee weapons, and explosives. While in combat, the player can utilize a gameplay mechanic known as VATS, which pauses the game and allows the player to target specific body parts of an enemy. VATS is dictated by a statistic known as action points. Each attack while in VATS costs action points, and when the player runs out of action points, they must wait a short period of time before they can use it again. An important mechanic in Fallout 3 is the player's karma. Whenever the player commits an action that is deemed either good or bad, their karma will change accordingly. For example, if the player provides water to a beggar, their karma increases. Likewise, if the player breaks into a home, their karma decreases. The player's karma affects how other characters perceive them. Certain companions can only be recruited if the players meet the companion's karmic expectations. Some non-recruitable characters will be more accepting of the player depending on their karma level, such as slavers, who will be more accepting to players with negative karma and provide services that will not be available with players with neutral positive karma. So diving into the plot, and this whole thing is also, by the way, complete spoiler territory. Fallout 3 takes place in the year 2277, 200 years after a nuclear war between the United States and China. Some survivors of the war took refuge in high-tech Fallout shelters known as vaults. The player character, nicknamed the Lone Wanderer, grew up in Vault 101, located near Washington, D.C. After the Lone Wanderer's 19th birthday, their father, a scientist named James, voiced by fucking Liam Neeson, which is crazy that they got him to voice this character in this video game, leaves the vault without an explanation. The young vault dweller decides to track down their father and journeys the region in and around Washington, D.C., now known as the Capital Wasteland. Along the way, the Lone Wanderer learns about their father's background from other characters, including Megaton, resident Colin Moriarty, Galaxy News Radio, DJ3 Dog, and Rivet City scientist Madison Lee. Before the Lone Wanderer's birth, James and his wife Catherine had been working on a Project Purity, in which a water purifier built in the Jefferson Memorial would have purified the irrigated water in the Tibetan Basin and Potomac River. Jesus Christ, these fucking names. Jesus Christ, these fucking names. They sound like fucking chemistry books. They sound like fucking chemistry like vocabulary. However, Catherine died during childbirth, and James abandoned the project to raise his child in Vault 101. The Lone Wanderer finds and rescues James from a virtual reality program run by Overseer Stanislas Braun, voiced by D. Bradley Baker, in Vault 112. James revealed that he wanted to revive Project Purity and left Vault 101 to seek the Guardian of Eden creation kit, GEC, a powerful piece of technology intended to assist in rebuilding civilization after a nuclear war. When work on Project Purity resumes, the remnants of the United States government, known as the Enclave, intervene under the command of Colonel Augustus Autumn. Its leader, President John Henry Eden, voiced by Malcolm McDowell. Holy shit, I love Malcolm McDowell. Wants to inject the purifier with a deadly virus that will kill any mutated organisms who drink the water, including humans. James sacrifices himself to protect the purifier. In response, the Lone Wanderer enlists the help of the Brotherhood of Steel, a military organization that protects the resident of the Capital Wasteland. The Lone Wanderer finds the GEC in Vault 87, but is captured by the Enclave and held in Raven Rock. They escape imprisonment and meet President Eden, who is revealed to be an artificial intelligence program. Eden then gives them a vial containing the virus and asks them to insert it into Project Purity. Afterwards, the Lone Wanderer leaves and optionally causes Eden to self destruct. Together with the Brotherhood of Steel, the Lone Wanderer retakes the Jefferson Memorial from Autumn and learns the water purifier needs to be manually activated or else it will shortly explode. Before James died, he flooded the control room with lethal amounts of radiation. The player, you guys, can either sacrifice yourselves to activate the purifier, optionally inserting the virus during the process. Or you can instruct Sarah Lyons, a Brotherhood member, to activate it instead. Or the third one is to do nothing and just let it explode. So you got three alternate endings to this game, kind of like the first two games. But yeah, there are some downloadable content. Operation Anchorage, which takes place inside a virtual reality simulation that depicts a battle between United States and Chinese soldiers in Anchorage, Alaska. The second DLC was The Pit, which is set in Pittsburgh. The player infiltrates a slaver compound and looks for a cure for the mutant disease affecting the slave population. The third DLC for this game is Broken Steel, which takes place immediately after the events of the main story and revolves around the Brotherhood of Steel's campaign to eliminate the remaining Enclave soldiers. The fourth DLC, Point Lookout, is set in Point Lookout State Park, where the player investigates the disappearance of a young girl. And the fifth and final DLC, Mothership Zeta, the player is abducted by aliens and must escape from a UFO. Yeah. But yeah, so personally, I said this again and again, and I'll say it for the third time in a row. I'm not a big fan of the first two games, mainly because personally, I find the first two games to be rather outdated. I mean, don't get me wrong, they were very enjoyable, but for me, Fallout 3 is when I started to like the franchise a bit. And then obviously Fallout 4 is my favorite one of them all. And I started liking and loving and got more involved. But this game was the first game that got me hooked into this series, into this franchise. But yeah, I loved its open end gameplay and flexible character leveling systems. Um, but uh, but yeah, while the VAT system was was fun, the enemy encounters, I, it did suffer from that lack of precision, real time combat, and little variety in enemy attacks. Um, but yeah, like I do like the art direction and the attention to details, to this game. Um, but I find the endings of the game were not enough constructed around the player's actions and decisions, you know. Um yeah, but anyway, I did encounter a few bugs um to the physics and crashes. Um like overall Fallout 3, I love its open-ended gameplay and flexible character leveling systems, but yeah, there were a few things, a few bugs related problems that I had with it, but that's pretty much it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have to say for Fallout 3. But yeah, that's that's all I have to say for Fallout 3. I mean, this game would later on and would later, receive a number of Game of the Year's awards, and now it's considered one of the best video games ever made. And it's great. And it's great to hear stuff like that, and it definitely deserved it. Um, but yeah, like the open world map is just one of the great game's achievement. I love its portrayal of the 1950s American culture, contrasted by the devastation of nuclear war. It's great. I love that. Um, but But I do know, looking back at it, there were some writing issues. The lack of choices that the player can make to affect the story was unrealistic with the decisions the character can make. Like for example, at the end of the game, when the player can choose to sacrifice themselves to activate the purifier, they are unable to ask a companion to do it instead, even if the companion is immune to the radiation itself. Like just that doesn't make any sense. Um, But yeah, like Fallout New Vegas, which is the next one on my list, introduced multiple quest lines that the player can follow to complete the game and replace the karma system with reputation among specific factions. So there's that too. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have to say for Fallout 3. Thank you so much, everyone. Please like and subscribe. Definitely subscribe because that would help me and my YouTube channel out a lot. This has been a breakdown of Fallout 3, and now you know everything: the story, the gameplay mechanics, all the DLCs, and the legacy that this game would have. Now looking back at it. But thank you so much, everyone, and I'll see you in my next video. Peace.